The stars have always belonged to no one. And yet, standing on the bridge of the New Horizon, Commander Jake Morrison could not escape the unsettling thought that out here, every star, every world, every hidden shadow of light, already belonged to someone else. Ahead of him, Kepler Prime drifted into view, a vast space station suspended in darkness like a mechanical flower in full bloom. Dozens of docking arms stretched outward in perfect symmetry, as though it were designed not by engineers, but by some cosmic gardener. Around it, ships from across the galaxy moved in delicate orbits, drawn in as if by gravity, or like insects pulled to a flame. Jake had spent 15 years in space. He had seen colonies rise on Mars, seen mining outposts survive against the void, and watched fragile human habitats cling to asteroids. But this was different. The alien ships made no sense to human eyes. Some were crystalline, glowing with an inner radiance as if lit by the memory of a star. Others resembled skeletal metal trees, their branches shifting and twisting in movements that seemed alive. A few were simply black spheres that absorbed light so completely they appeared to erase nearby space. Behind him, Lisa Carter, his pilot, guided the ship with hands steady from years of practice. She was young, only 28, but Jake trusted her more than any veteran. While her peers had been learning to drive ground cars, she had been flying cargo runs to Mars and back, proving she was born for the void. Below decks, Ben Walsh worked silently in engineering. Ben was the type of man who could rebuild a broken reactor with nothing but spare wires and stubbornness. Jake knew that if things went wrong, Ben would keep the New Horizon alive long enough for them to fight their way home. At the science station sat Dr. Amanda Ross, supposedly their expert in xenobiology. But Jake suspected she carried more secrets than her credentials suggested. She had spent years studying scraps of alien knowledge, artifacts, transmissions, fragments of biology. Officially, she was here to advise on first contact protocols. But Jake knew better. Amanda was playing a deeper game. And then there was Sam Collins. Officially, communications officer. In reality, he was the mission's most dangerous asset. Sam worked in a sealed chamber with clearance above Jake's own. What he decoded, hidden in alien transmissions, was the reason humanity was here at all. 3 months earlier, Earth had received the first official invitation from the so-called Galactic Council. The message had been polite. Friendly. Too friendly. It arrived on multiple frequencies, translated into half a dozen human languages. Clearly, the aliens had been watching Earth for a long time. They spoke of trade. Of shared science. Of culture. They even offered humanity what had always been the ultimate dream, faster-than-light technology. The keys to the stars. It sounded like a gift. A doorway into everything humanity had ever longed for. But Sam Collins found the second message. The one hidden beneath the noise. Alien transmissions not meant for human ears. Communications between species of the Council themselves. And what they revealed was simple. Terrifying. Humanity was not being welcomed. It was being absorbed. To the Galactic Council, humans were primitive, clever animals who had stumbled into spaceflight. Barely out of the Stone Age compared to empires that had ruled the stars for millennia. Earth was not invited to join as an equal. It was expected to surrender. To hand over its resources. Its labor. Its people. Humanity would survive, but only as servants. The Council had even requested that Earth send only a modest diplomatic vessel. Something appropriate for a young species. They wanted humanity to come unarmed. Defenseless. But Earth had been preparing for this moment since the very first radio whispers revealed that they were not alone. The New Horizon looked like exactly what the aliens had demanded, a fragile diplomatic craft, painted white and blue with Earth symbols proudly displayed. Its energy signature was weak, its weapons seemingly obsolete, its cramped living quarters uncomfortable. Every detail screamed of a species too new, too naive, too desperate to impress. But beneath the deception, the New Horizon was something else entirely. Its true engines could accelerate with impossible force. Its primitive weapons were state-of-the-art energy systems designed specifically to exploit alien weaknesses. And hidden in its core, under Ben Walsh's careful watch, was something no alien could yet comprehend: humanity's most secret weapon, born from fragmented alien wreckage and physics experiments that had accidentally reshaped the structure of space itself. Jake Morrison stood at the viewport as Kepler Prime grew larger. And he felt the weight of it, humanity's gamble. They were not just representatives on a diplomatic mission. They were the tip of a blade, hidden inside velvet. And today, the galaxy would learn what humans truly were. Lisa announced they were approaching their assigned docking zone. Alien ships shifted aside, clearing space for the fragile little human vessel. The trap was closing. The docking clamps locked into place, echoing like teeth biting down. The New Horizon shuddered as it became part of the station, a prey animal walking willingly into the predator's den. Through the viewport, alien ships gleamed. More advanced than anything humanity had ever built. More advanced than Earth's scientists had dared imagine. Lisa powered down the engines, her hands steady though her jaw was tight. Ben emerged from engineering, gave Jake a small nod. The hidden systems were armed and ready. The console chimed. A voice, artificial but flawless in English, welcomed the humans. The Galactic Council awaited. Amanda gathered her tablets. Sam adjusted his recording devices. The airlock cycled open with a hiss, revealing a corridor alive with shifting colors and scents that smelled of both lightning and flowers. And waiting there were the Council's emissaries. The first was reptilian, tall, golden-eyed, scales reflecting the strange lights. It introduced itself as High Chancellor Vexer of the Soren Empire. The second was insectoid, a chittering, multi-eyed Admiral Zevka of the Hive Collective. Both smiled with words that were not smiles. Both radiated authority. Power. Ownership. They guided the humans through corridors filled with creatures of impossible design, beings with wings of energy, others rolling on wheels instead of legs, some eerily human except for too many arms or faces that shifted color with emotion. All of them stopped to watch as the humans passed. Curiosity. Amusement. Never respect. The chamber was vast, domed with transparent ceilings showing the stars outside. Dozens of species filled tiered seats around a central platform where the humans were directed to stand, like exhibits in a gallery. The speeches began. Polite, rehearsed. Promises of technology, of safety, of cures for every human disease, of energy beyond measure. But always with the subtle omission, what Earth must give in return. Finally, Jake asked the question aloud. And the tone shifted. The truth spilled out. Earth's government would be dissolved, replaced by a council-appointed administrator. Human militaries disbanded. Populations relocated to serve greater purposes. Culture, history, individuality, erased, because that was simply the natural order. Primitive species surrendered to the superior. Always. It was conquest. Disguised as cooperation. And then, as though on cue, the stars outside shifted. Cloaked ships shimmered into existence. Dozens. Hundreds. A fleet, weapons already armed, surrounding Kepler Prime, surrounding the tiny human vessel that seemed too fragile to matter. The trap was sprung. But Jake Morrison only smiled. Because humanity had been waiting for this very moment. The silence in the chamber was suffocating. Dozens of alien leaders sat in tiered rows above, gazes fixed on the lone group of humans below. They looked down not as peers, but as rulers watching curiosities. The decision had already been made: Earth would join the Galactic Council, not as an equal, but as property. High Chancellor Vexer's golden eyes glimmered with a predatory patience. "Understand, Commander Morrison," he said, his voice translated into flawless English, "this is not conquest. It is preservation. Your species will not perish. You will flourish, under our guidance. You will live longer, healthier lives than you ever imagined. All we ask in return, is obedience. The words slid across the chamber like oil. Jake stood motionless. He knew the performance unfolding here was not for him. It was for the council itself, a display of power, meant to remind every watching species what happened to those who resisted. Humanity was being turned into a spectacle. Amanda Ross's hands tightened around her data slate. She whispered to Jake, barely audible, "They want us to break before we even fight." Psychological conditioning. Humiliation as the first step of control. And she was right. Humanity's chains would not begin with weapons, but with words. The insectoid Admiral Zevka leaned forward, its mandibles clicking in a rhythm like a countdown. Do not mistake this offer for kindness. We have crushed empires far older than yours. Do not cling to pride. Pride is for the dead. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Every word was a knife, sharpened by centuries of domination. This was how the council expanded. Not just through firepower, but through the certainty that resistance was hopeless. Jake let the silence linger. Then he spoke. Calm. Controlled. You miscalculated. The words froze the chamber. Lisa, Ben, Amanda, and Sam exchanged glances. This was the signal. The pivot. Vexer tilted his head, reptilian eyes narrowing. Explain yourself, human. Jake stepped forward. His voice carried not arrogance, but a quiet conviction. You believe we are afraid. That we are fragile. That by surrounding us, by showing us the weight of your empire, we will surrender. But you've made a mistake. You've mistaken silence for weakness. And patience for fear. At that moment, Sam Collins activated his device. Hidden within the New Horizon, human algorithms transmitted across the station. For months, Earth's intelligence had studied alien communications. Their codes. Their frequencies. Their blind spots. Now, across Kepler Prime, alien systems flickered. Screens shifted. Lights dimmed. Voices of the council distorted. And into the silence, a human broadcast began. Images. Not of surrender. But of history. The Battle of Stalingrad. The Civil Rights Marches. Apollo 11 touching down on the moon. Burning cities rebuilt from ruins. Humanity's story unfolded in brutal, unrelenting clarity. A species that had suffered, endured, and risen again, over and over, against impossible odds. And woven through it all, a single message. We are not guests. We are not servants. We are humanity. The aliens shifted uneasily. For the first time, doubt crackled in the chamber. They were not used to prey speaking back. Then, outside the station, the void came alive. The New Horizon, once docked and powerless, shifted its core. Hidden systems activated. Hull plating reconfigured, revealing weapons arrays invisible to alien sensors. Engines thrummed with energy far beyond what the Council had permitted. And in the darkness beyond, human ships emerged. Not hundreds. Only a handful. But each one cloaked, unseen until now, slipping from the shadows like wolves circling lions. Ben Walsh's engineering genius had paid off. Humanity had cracked something the aliens believed impossible, cloaked propulsion, hidden beneath the noise of the void. Alarms blared. Council delegates shouted in a dozen languages. The trap they had set for humanity was unraveling. But Jake did not move. His words cut sharper than weapons. You thought we would come begging. That we would kneel for scraps. But we came with another purpose. To remind you, the galaxy does not belong to empires alone. It belongs to those who endure. Vexer's composure cracked, his voice rising with anger. You dare threaten the council? Do you think a handful of ships can defy 1,000 worlds? Jake's eyes narrowed. We don't need to. We only need to show the galaxy that you can bleed. The tension shifted, almost imperceptibly. The aliens had gathered to watch humanity surrender. Instead, they were witnessing defiance. And worse, they were witnessing possibility. Amanda stepped forward, her voice colder than ice. Your council thrives on fear. On convincing the young and the weak that resistance is futile. But fear is fragile. All it takes is one crack, and the illusion shatters. Lisa's hands hovered over her controls, ready to unleash the New Horizons arsenal if needed. But for now, this was not about firepower. This was about psychology. About showing the galaxy that the prey had teeth. Sam's transmission spread farther, hijacking channels across nearby systems. Civilizations watching from light years away saw humanity's defiance broadcast openly. They saw a small species standing before giants, unbroken. And somewhere, deep among the assembly, other alien delegates shifted in their seats. Not all were loyal to the council. Not all believed in endless domination. And some, perhaps, were already wondering, if humans could resist, why not them? The psychological trap had reversed. But victory was never that simple. Suddenly, the chamber lights shifted. The station's AI systems began fighting back, purging Sam's intrusion. Alien soldiers armed with plasma rifles flooded the entrances. The council had underestimated humanity, but they would not make the same mistake twice. Jake gave a single nod. Lisa powered up the ship's weapons. Ben armed the hidden core. Amanda secured their data. And Sam kept the broadcast alive, even as systems tried to crush him. The council had wanted a spectacle. Now they had one. The first shot would decide everything. Jake looked at Vexer, meeting his golden eyes without flinching. You wanted obedience. Instead, you will remember this day as the moment humanity stopped being silent. The alien fleet outside shifted, moving into attack positions. But for the first time in thousands of years, the council faced something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. The New Horizon pulsed with hidden power. Human ships readied weapons. Across the galaxy, millions watched. The silence stretched, fragile, unbearable, infinite. And then, the war began. The first shots tore the silence apart. Alien weapons lit up the void, lances of plasma cutting through the darkness like artificial suns. Kepler Prime's defensive batteries roared to life, flooding space with deadly energy. The Council had unleashed its fury, confident that overwhelming firepower would erase human defiance in moments. But the New Horizon did not fall. Lisa Carter's hands danced across her controls. The ship twisted and rolled in ways alien eyes had never witnessed, as though the vessel itself had learned to move like a living thing. Energy bolts meant to annihilate it slid harmlessly past, diverted by strange distortions in space itself. Ben Walsh had activated the core. The ship's engines were no longer bound to Newton's laws. They bent gravity, folded momentum, slipped between fractions of space like a blade cutting through fabric. To the Council's fleet, the New Horizon was a ghost, untouchable, unpredictable, terrifying. Amanda Ross whispered to herself, "We just told the galaxy we can fight, now we show them we can win." Outside, human ships revealed themselves fully. Small, outnumbered, fragile, but each cloaked in the same impossible technology. Together, they struck not for victory, but for spectacle. Targeting not the alien ships themselves, but their weapons. Their sensors. Their pride. Alien vessels that had stood unchallenged for centuries suddenly found themselves blind. Crippled. Their perfect formations broken by a handful of intruders who fought with reckless precision. In the council chamber, panic erupted. Delegates shouted in rage, demanding the extermination of the humans. But beneath their fury was something more dangerous, fear. Jake Morrison stood tall, calm amid chaos. He knew what his crew had just accomplished. The Council's greatest weapon had never been its fleets, but its illusion of invincibility. And now, before the entire galaxy, that illusion was shattering. But then, the station itself trembled. At first, Jake thought it was the impact of weapons. But Amanda's instruments screamed with readings she had never seen before. Space itself around Kepler Prime rippled, like a pond disturbed by something vast beneath the surface. The alien fleet halted, their weapons falling silent. Even Vexor and Zevka froze, their predatory arrogance replaced by sudden unease. A new presence was arriving. From the darkness beyond the stars, they emerged. Shapes too vast to measure, too ancient to comprehend. Their hulls were not built, but grown, sprawling architectures of light and stone, curving like cathedral spires stretching into infinity. They did not glide into the system. They unfolded, as though space itself were merely a curtain they had chosen to step through. The council delegates fell into silence. For the first time, even their voices held reverence. Amanda whispered a single word, architects. The Harari had spoken of them in riddles. Ancient beings who had shaped the galaxy long before empires rose. Silent watchers, unseen architects of history. For 500,000 years, they had remained hidden. And now, drawn by the Council's arrogance and humanity's defiance, they had returned. Their voices did not come through speakers or translators. They arrived directly in the mind, not words, but impressions, vast and overwhelming. Children quarreling in shadows. You have forgotten the design. You have broken the balance. Vexor dropped to his knees, scales quivering. Zevka clicked in frantic supplication. Around the chamber, mighty rulers who had demanded Earth's obedience now cowered like frightened acolytes. Jake gritted his teeth. The voice was crushing, pressing against his thoughts like the weight of a planet. But he refused to bow. Humanity had suffered tyrants before. He would not kneel to another, no matter how vast. Amanda clutched her temples. They're not here for us, she gasped. They're here for all of us. And she was right. The architect's attention swept across the system, ignoring ships, ignoring weapons. They looked deeper, at civilizations themselves. Their message was clear, the galaxy had strayed from their intended order. The Council's empire of dominance, its endless consumption of younger species, was a corruption of design. But there was no promise of mercy. The images they projected into every mind were not salvation, but judgment. Stars extinguished. Worlds burned clean. Entire civilizations erased not with hate, but with indifference. The galaxy was not theirs. It was a garden. And the gardeners had returned. Jake's voice broke the silence. If you've come to destroy us, then do it. But know this, humanity will not beg. Not from the Council. Not from you. We endure. That's what we are. The architects paused. For a heartbeat, the crushing pressure in his mind lifted. As though the infinite had turned its gaze directly upon one fragile human and found, curiosity. Sam's systems flickered. The human broadcast had not stopped. Across the galaxy, billions still watched. And now they saw not just humanity's defiance against the Council, but humanity's defiance against something far greater. The Council leaders trembled. Their illusion of superiority shattered not only by human defiance, but by the revelation that they, too, were children before an older power. Amanda's voice was steady now. This is the truth, Jake. The galaxy was never about rulers and servants. It was always about survival. And maybe that's why we're still here. The architects' ships shimmered. Then, as suddenly as they had appeared, they began to fold back into the void. Their judgment was not yet complete. They had revealed themselves, but their verdict was still to come. And as they vanished, their final impression lingered in every mind. Prepare. The silence that followed was worse than battle. The council was broken. Its delegates shaken, its fleets humiliated. But humanity was not victorious. They had only pulled back the curtain to reveal the truth. The galaxy itself was haunted by something far more dangerous than empires. Jake turned to his crew. Lisa's hand still hovered over the controls, knuckles white. Ben wiped sweat from his brow, his engines humming with unstable power. Amanda stared at the fading stars where the architects had vanished, her eyes filled with questions too vast for words. And Sam, pale and exhausted, kept the transmission alive until the very last second. Jake spoke quietly, but his words carried the weight of prophecy. The council wanted us broken. Instead, they showed the galaxy that we are not afraid. But this was only the beginning. Something greater is coming. And we will be ready. Beyond Kepler Prime, the human ships regrouped around the new horizon. Fragile. Outnumbered. But unbroken. For the first time in 500,000 years, the galaxy had witnessed something impossible. Not conquest. Not submission. But the birth of resistance. And far away, in the silent halls of the architects, the seeds of a greater war began to stir.